So we've done a lot of gathering so far this morning, haven't we? We've sung Gather the Spirits, we've sang We Gather Together. I sang a song, Lady of the Harbor, about people gathering in America, coming here as immigrants. And even if you think of it, Native Americans gathered here centuries ago from whatever land bridge or ocean they crossed at the time. Families gathered here, and families were made here. Family and immigration issues were front and center last Sunday when I had the pleasure of hanging out with our young adult group. I played Lady of the Harbor for them, and we had a really great discussion. I brought up the dichotomy between the sort of romanticized ideas of the earlier ways of immigration that were mentioned in the Lady of the Harbor song, and the notion that today we face decisions about locking down borders and filling in jails, when really anti-immigration sentiment has been a staple throughout American history. The young adults had a lot to say. They spoke about how some of the policies of our country have led to economic situations in other countries that have encouraged migration. About how closed borders make it difficult for those who want to be migrant laborers, those who want to work here for a time and then go home. About how the prison industrial complex has a vested interest in thwarting immigration reform and keeping people in jail to keep their profits up. About how the U.S. really has no interest in the huddled masses anymore, as shown by the differences in immigration experiences between those with wealth and high-level skills and those without. About how European immigration devastated the Native American population. About how people remember Ellis Island, but tend to forget Sullivan's Island, the port in South Carolina where about 40% of the enslaved Africans who came to British North America experienced forced migration. All very compelling points. And then what some shared was much more closer to home and personal than I had expected. One person mentioned several family members who had actually been deported, and how in order to help prove that their parents were really married, and not just married to stay in the U.S., that they broke open boxes of family photos and made a photo album specifically for the officers of the Immigration and Naturalization Service. One person related the fact that once their student visa is up, there's very little prospect of them being able to stay here, because a prospective employer would have to prove there were no Americans able to fill the position. Our discussion ended with some thoughts that while locking down borders and filling up jails is not the right answer, neither is completely open borders. There must be some practical solutions in between. As it is now, people and families are suffering. Now, while keeping families together is important, as has been mentioned already this month, the influence of family is not always positive. In the Christian tradition, Jesus is said to have had some rather unconventional ideas about family. He's quoted as saying, quote, "If any come to me and do not hate their own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, they cannot be my disciples." Pretty harsh words to hear now, and even then, more so. But scholars from the Jesus Seminar maintain that, quote, for Jesus, family ties faded into insignificance in relation to God's imperial rule, which he regarded as the fundamental claim on human loyalty. In other words, your values should trump your family. If your clan, network, tribe, or family is leading you astray from your highest ideals and values, then maybe you should reevaluate those relationships. Perhaps even sever them. Now, fortunately for us, as a church family in this religion called Unitarian Universalism, we are bound together by our values. The word religion itself is derived from the Latin root religare, meaning to bind together. Our values brought us here, and they are the ties that bind us here, as are the relationships that we form while here. May these values continue to guide us and shine on as we struggle for peace, justice, compassion in our families, in our community, in our nation,